Hey everybody, it's Marty the JavaScript Party and my buddy Rhett here, and we are doing my favorite thing in the world, coding. And she actually threw this piece of nut off yesterday, so I'm just giving her this nut back. I don't think she wants it though. She really doesn't like those. Um, but that's all I got left, so that's what she's getting until you gotta take the good with the bad and the bad with the good. I mean, that's just how life is. Um, but anyways, this code is coming along nicely. We're trying to get to where when we throw this guy up, it respects these two settings right now. We have them implemented in the UI. I did go on a bit of a rant about how like I wish it was more like surrounded with gray and stuff like that. But and I have worked in places where we tried that, and it's just like one problem after another. I mean, the one thing about and the good so Angular material's greatest strength is also its greatest weakness, like almost everything in life, and it's that it's highly opinionated. So you know that you're gonna get something nice, but you won't necessarily get what you want. So it's just one of those things where um, if you tried like see that would probably look goofy if it was all gray around the outside. Yeah, I just don't even know. Let's see if we click over there. It's just yeah, I don't know. It feels like this should have like the focus. See here, you can tell it's focused because this turned to blue and this underline thing got bold, which I believe is probably friendly to like colorblind people because they we could see that this is darker than this up here. For me, it seems like when you this whole thing should be gray like this, and then when you click on it, um, or when it's focused. So like in this scenario, it's this should be like thicker and gray, so that kind of like this, with like a thick blue around it when it's focused. Um, but they decided the focus indicator was that this light gray around here. So if you made it all gray like that, then you wouldn't be able to see the focus. So like it's just like you're opening a can of worms. One issue after another. Step off the if you step off and do your own thing. Um, so now, since it's looking good and the UI is working, it's time to like go to the next thing. And I guess there's like, the next thing is actually you can always sort of break things down into multiple steps. So the next thing, one way you could break it down is like what's happening on the component itself, and then what's happening in the service. Those are like two ways you can break it down. Um, but it looks like in the service we have two ways of things, and one is like anytime the value on the whole form changes, it looks like I went with the hey, where I'm gonna if anything changes, everything. I'm gonna assume that if I update everything, then the value will get there. So if I change this to 22, then just take whatever the values I have and update them. And it looks like I just add the word update in front, and then whatever the thing is, and it looks like I was pretty so I was gonna say it looks like I was pretty consistent, but see like this is update discrete language. So obviously that word is wrong, right? It really should be update language, um, because I'm confident that it's the same. I actually know for a fact that yeah, so I'm confident that it's the same language regardless of whether you're doing continuous or not. So I probably should change this to language. And usually what you can get away with just like kind of doing something like that and then letting the transpiler fix that for you. And I guess this like if this was a work in progress. So this is a working application that worked, and now we're doing some updates to it. And if this was a work in progress, I may not make this change. But since it is, in fact, just something it's something that works, and the future is very clear that we're not going to have a discrete language and a continuous language. So it just makes a lot of sense to make that update now. So I can hold the shift button down and I can click on this, and it's telling me that there's a file name setting dash dialog dash component ts, and this is number 78. Oh, so it's telling me that this is the problem and that it's upset that that it can't find a update language and speech service. Unfortunately, I guess it's not going to help me too much with finding the other one. So maybe I'll hit undo and we'll come out at the opposite direction. We're going to go to definition and let's go ahead and change this to language. Is this worth doing? Probably. It probably is. This is very clear right now. It won't be clear in the future. So now if I hit that, I still get the same error, probably in the same place would be my guess. But it is now it's something that I can easily fix. So let's go with this language and hit save, and we are back in business. Now let's go back to that definition. And so we see that I did name it discrete language. So let's just go ahead and fix that. And it should be like lowercase now that there. And so again, I just did the exact same thing. We probably want to actually change it at the source and then let the transpiler help us. So I never really thought about that before, but that is actually a really good pattern. All right, so we see that we have this language here and that this guy is broken here, which is super easy to fix. Language, and then looks like we have some more issues. And if we hit save, then the transpiler will help us. Just instead of us having to scroll around, we can just hold the control button down and we can just change these. There's probably like an automated way for it to do it all for you, but I do find it to be like in rare circumstances it may not quite do what you want to do, and if you don't, so this is the problem, right? Because it's continuous recording. We're saying use the discrete language. I suspect in the future at some point I will probably want to come back up to speed on this. Hit save. I think that was everything, but maybe not. There's two more red ones. I'll want to come in and work on this, and this being called discrete language is going to cause frustration, and it's like, what do I need frustration for? And B, see, does that make sense? It will cause confusion, and I definitely don't need confusion. Confusion is definitely your enemy when you're writing code. So that is working, but if I remember at the top, see, like this discrete total count is kind of screwy because it is actually our total count, right? Oh no, this isn't our discrete result. Okay, so if I remember correctly, we had a discrete signal, and this one's going to be a little bit harder. And actually, I think this is a lot easier than it probably would have been with an RxJS solution, but maybe not. I'm just kind of thinking out loud. So I definitely want it to be language signal, not discrete language signal. So this should break a bunch of stuff, right? So let's go ahead and do this. And again, since I just started working on this, this isn't that hard to fix. Language signal, and language signal, and save, and then we will have a breakage in our settings dialog, which makes total sense. Oh, and it is, let me hit the control button and let it take us straight to the line. So this guy is listening for the what? Did it fix? Did I do something? I think I might have just automatically fixed it somehow. I don't know. Hit save again. Okay, let's go to this guy here. Okay, yeah, that was weird. Okay, language. So I need to set the language signal, not the discrete language signal. And I just cannot. It's so weird because like on a scale of 1 to 10, this is a point 0.1 on difficulty. It was super simple the way I did it. There are times if you go at it a different way and you add some time between now and the time that I try to make sense of things, fixing that can be like a nightmare. It can be a 10 in difficulty. And it's just like, even if I never ever need to do it again, if doing a point 0.1 now saves me from doing a 10 in 2 years, it's worth it. And then if it never saves me anything, well, I mean, it doesn't hurt anything too. That was pretty fun. But we should probably make sure that things still work. So, hello. Okay, so that still works, so that's good. We got our variations, continuous. Hello. Yep, so it looks like we're good. I guess I should do, hello, how are you? What is happening? It is wild how, first of all, I, I'm pretty sure when but it's happening, but it's happening, what is happening, but what is happening, and but it is happening. Well, like, it's so strange that I don't think I ever said but, or it even sounded like but. And I don't think like nobody's, like there's some like, is it dis and this? Like a lot of people say dis instead of this or whatever, like it's just a common thing, but maybe it just always expected. I don't know. Anyways, I find that fascinating that it decided that it was very likely, and that was like, it was just like, I'm pretty sure you said but, and um, I don't think that makes any sense at all as a human being. But the artificial intelligence or the um, the process, whatever is happening in the back end for some reason, was just absolutely 90 plus percent that I said but. And I thought that there was a very low chance that I did not say but, which is weird. Like, it felt like it was a 90% chance that I said but it is happening when I said what is happening. And it did get it, but it was just like, I don't know, you said that, but I don't think you did. That makes no sense. And I feel like how are you, what is happening, um, even makes more sense than but is happening. But is happening doesn't make a darn bit of sense. Anyways, that's a distraction. So it looks like I think we got rid of the whole concept of discrete language. So let's kind of go back over here, and go to our settings dialog, and we're just gonna chalk that up as making the campground better than we found it. So it looks like, based on that sort of experience, it seems like the smart thing would be to um, add kind of build out the support for interim results and process locally in the service, and sort of work my way back up to the component. So let's go ahead and do that. Speech service. And I guess we can just kind of look in here and say, guess what we do, like, so we did that, like, should be probably wherever so what we did is we had like language signal. and that sends this language, which is a string. So we kind of, I guess we put the three properties first, and then their three three um, signals after it. So like I feel like that's good. Good. That was fine. I think this would have been fine too. Right? Like the property followed by the signal. I think either are perfectly fine. Um, and I think that like however you started, that's how you're gonna like it. But this is like a really good example where like if you go in and you're a brand new developer someplace, regardless whether you have a lot of experience or you're a rookie or whatever, and you see something like this, like the way I did it here, and then you decide to change it to like the way you like it, that's a pretty good indicator that you're probably not going to fit in. Um, so you can either be flexible and just kind of go, if unless you can just like give an absolute good reason why you're going to change the way a style change like that. If you can give a really good reason, um, and like it's got to be not like, oh well, it's just easier to understand or something, but more like, oh, there's some sort of actual advantage. Maybe if we ever have to like change the architecture, it'll be easier or something like that. But to change a styling thing like that, um, maybe you'll get away with it, maybe you won't, but it's probably a mistake. Like at my current job, my boss, I've never seen this before, but he likes the properties to be after the constructor. I've never, ever, ever, ever in 50 years seen that. Okay, fine. I don't care. It doesn't hurt anything to put the constructor before the properties. It's like I've never seen it that way before, but so what? Um, you know, um, it's just one of those things, that changes over time. So or like it's just a style thing. It's just like a personal preference kind of thing. And as long as you're kind of doing the same as everybody else, it works. It just shows that you're open to the culture of the new place that you're in, as opposed to trying to dictate your culture on the place that you're going. Um, so uh, now, like if it, yeah. But anyways, so that was I think that's an important thing to keep in mind, especially if you're going to a new place. And then like if somebody comes in and they're changing it, and maybe they like I was putting, like whenever I made new code, I always put the constructor after the properties, like the way I have it here, where I have this constructor here and I have all the properties. Um, I wasn't doing that to try to force my personal culture on them, on the organization that I'm working on. Is just I actually just didn't even notice. That's just how I've always done it. So don't assume because someone changes your does something that's outside of your normal culture that they are actually trying to force their culture on you. They may literally just be numb and not not be sensitive to that. Um, but then like if you tell them and then like they push back or try to maybe like maybe you fix it for them, but then they fix it back, something like that. Well, then okay, maybe you have a problem. Um, but anyways, we have two of them, right? We have interim results, and that is equal to. I think we decided to default to false, and then we have um, process locally. And this is equal to false. So it's a primitive, so it'll be very easy to tell if it's changed. Now, the thing you got to keep in mind is that if you set the signal and you're expecting to publish that, and you're just changing it to whatever it was before, that signal probably won't. I don't think that signal will fire. which could be a good thing or could be a bad thing, um, just depending on what you want. But it won't, like, so if process locally and then I say, uh, and then I create my signal and then I try to execute it, and it hasn't changed, it won't execute. It won't publish a second time. So it's just something to keep in mind. So now we basically, I think we always named it the same. It looks like, so interim results signal equals signal, and then at this time, signals are still pretty new, um, and I don't think that there's a lot of um, really good best practices around. But I do think one of the best practices that may come along is to never, to not, to make these private and then have a computed signal that is public, so that not just anybody who gets a reference to this can just publish on that signal. Um, but I don't think that that is like established as an actual like well-defined um, best practice yet. So process locally signal. All right, and so then it looks like I kind of, for like my language for every one of these signals, I think there's like a getter or a setter. There's something that gets exposed to the form. See, like we have update language, update max, alternatives, update parameters. Oh, it looks like we have a getter too. Get supported language name. So though, okay, so it doesn't look like they all. It looks like we just have setters. So, and we call them all update. I think I like to call things update just because of the acronym CRUD: create, read, update, and delete. Um, so I try to avoid edit, um, edit grammars, edit. Um, Sometimes it makes sense to have like a set, but the problem is that there's this whole concept in JavaScript called getters and setters, where you get and set things, and it's a little, um, it can get kind of confusing. But anyways, update. Uh, Update was like process locally, and let me just copy these two just so I can have them for a reference, so I don't have to try to remember that. This is just temporary. I just don't want to make some kind of silly spelling. And so if I was doing unit tests on this, I would definitely, this thing would return something. But when you do an update, it looks like it's just a two-step thing. Looks like we get the, and I've interim results. And it feels weird. Yeah, I guess it should be interim. I'm just going to call it interim. And that is going to be a boolean. And then this dot interim results is equal to interim. So we're setting it, and then I guess we are just calling the signal directly. It might be better to like have a function that calls it, but I guess I decided I didn't want to create a whole function that is literally so that I don't have to run one line. I could see myself doing that. So we set the local one. Okay, what's the problem here? Oh, dot set. I really, and I really wish they call, instead of set, had called it publish. I think it would be a little clearer. At least that's how I use it as a publishing mechanism. Um, and I feel like every time I've ever described the proper use, or I've heard the proper use of this, um, it's been like to basically publish things, to maintain a state and publish them. But I'm there's no way that the folks over at Angular didn't have hours and hours and hours and hours of passionate discussion about this, and that is what they came up with. So I guess, you know, I'm just going to give them the benefit of the doubt that they thought through this very carefully and decided against the word um, they decided against the word publish for whatever reason. I guess I just want this. And I'm just kind of zombieing through this because it's just like, yeah, I could sit there and just like really fully understand exactly what's happening here. But it all makes sense. I don't think it really um, needs to be fully sort of um, fully understood. And then we'll just go ahead and get rid of this. And I think we are done in the service. So it seems like we created the attribute, which I believe the attribute is what is going to be used in the actual object that does the voice recognition. So this is for the voice recognition thing, and then this is for the form. So the form knows how to knows what the current one is. So like if I'm in the form, I close it and then I open it again. It basically will maintain that state. And then I think when I create the effect, it's actually gonna listen. It will actually request that value, and maybe that's why they don't call it publish, because like publish sort of not just sort of, it actually says, hey, this is something that happened and it already happened in the past. So if I'm getting the value, then there's you won't get anything until it publishes. I guess that might be part of the argument of why you don't call it publish. Okay, so now we have our setter. So I believe what we have working is basically it's all wired up in the service, and it's all wired up in the component, in this component here. But where it's not wired up is between the two, and it's not wired up between this and the voice recognition object. Neither of those are connected up yet. So now we have two choices. We can connect it to the recognition system and then maybe do a couple little tests of manually changing it and seeing if it seems to be working, or we can connect it up to the form. I'm just going to connect it up to the form, mostly because we already have changes in the form, so it's already this color here. But I think the service, all that stuff happens in here anyway. So I think every file that's going to be updated has already been updated. And between the template and the component is all wired up already. So I think all we need is something along the lines of this here for our two different things. I wonder. Yeah. So these are two. Now my biggest fear is, like, I literally have decades of muscle memory for work. Is I have decades of muscle memory for putting the constructor after the attributes. And so like I feel like in especially my next couple, well, really from here on out, since my boss was very careful to tell me he wants it the other way around, if I accidentally do it, it'll look like I'm just kind of like I'm trying to impose my will on them, and that is there's just nothing further from the truth. And like I know that if I was just like, oh, this is something I'm worried about, my boss would be like, it's no big deal, dude. Don't worry about it. But it's a big deal. Um, it is a much bigger deal than you would think. Uh, for all people, I mean, that is just a signal that you do not want to be part of the grout. So what are we looking at? We are looking for our interim results signal. And I don't think we need this toString. I think it's a Boolean. And then I don't know why we have this here. And actually this is bad because um, signal. The problem is that false is actually a legal value. But I don't, since it is Boolean, I don't even think we need this. I think all of that is just to make sure that the values are reasonable. But since this is, I think this is all we need. And I'm not 100% sure on that. Results. Set value. And interestingly, we could just set it to the value that's in there because we do change the value before we send the signal, but and in there, I mean, what I mean is in the service, we actually do have a property of the service. And so basically we need something along these lines, not these lines. So this is a little bit different because it is just a Boolean instead of a string. And it looks like I had to write some kind of special code to protect it. And this one is called interim results, and this one is called processLocally. And like I really tried really hard to remember that there. That doesn't just happen. That's like something you have to practice. All right, so I believe what we should see is if I hit save, that nothing breaks, first of all. We don't want anything to break. Probably want to F12. Hit, I do like that better, but you have to make sure you click. I think I like clicking and hitting F12 better than right-clicking and selecting something. So basically what we expect right now is to pop this up and it be unchecked. And and this is like, I think this is like here's what I think is happening with this. And I've explained this a few times in this video thing, but this is going to be a problem. Like if you work in a highly regimented sort of, in what am I trying to say, like an enterprise environment. But as you can see, this, I believe it even says that this is only going to be displayed in in develop mode. In development mode, I don't think this would be displayed in production mode. But secondarily, this I think is happening because right now, when I click on this, it puts focus on this, and then it attempts to put. Then it's upset because the focus is on something that's not focusable because this thing goes over the top. And I don't think there's anything you can do about it. Because I think at some point while this is being created, there's nothing to focus on. And so you're going to get this little warning here saying that. But the focus ends up right here. You could tell the focus is on this language because this is bolded here. So like it's kind of a fake error that you can spend hours and hours and hours trying to fix, but nothing's broken. It's upset that the screen reader is not going to know what to read during the fraction, the 10th of a second, 100th of a second, that this thing is coming up. So that's that. Now, what we want to do, so that works. That's what we expected. So I think the next thing to test is to set these, default these to true and see if the screen shows them as checked. And this is just kind of thing that, like, sometimes there's just something wrong in the wiring. You know, like you just miss something. And it's just so much easier to figure something like that out now than it is a month from now or something, or when we're working on some other part. Okay, so now they're both checked. So that's good. So that's working exactly the way we had hoped to work. Hoped for it to work. So we go there, and now we want it to be false again. Now, the next thing we want to do is, I think we did set up our setters. So we want to click this, close this, pop it open again. And so that's not good. So for some reason, that didn't work. Maybe I didn't do both parts of it. Yep. So I never actually, so whenever the form changes, I update everything, but I never tried to update this guy. So let's do this. This dot speech service dot update. It looks like we always call it update. There's not a whole lot of choices, so I guess we'll go interim results and then results dot interim results. I believe this is right. I believe that's probably my wife just telling me she's on her way home. Oh no, it's my son. So I'm gonna just finish this up real quick, and then I'm gonna give him a call right back. Speech service dot update process locally results dot process locally, and hit save. I think that should work. I didn't, like, I could go back and like absolutely double check that the results has a process locally, or I could console log it, but let's just go with it. So that's good. All that's left now, if I didn't have to call my son back, I would just do this now, but I'll wait for next week, is to actually update the actual recognition object with these values, and then do some experimentation, just to make sure that, probably with some console logs, and then make sure that we're actually setting it, and then see what it actually does. And then once that's done and we've kind of played that all the way out, I'll add process locally to the list of expected API things, and so this should go away. And then we'll finish up a couple of things and put this project to bed, unless a new attribute shows up again. But anyways, happy coding, everybody. Bye. Go Steelers.